so hard to come here and, stand here and talk in front of people about, anything, but particularly something that's so emotive. Obviously, we've been kind of on this journey with Anastasia and her partner for a while now, and, finding out that she was pregnant, and which is obviously such an exciting, happy time, and it's just kind of like, been hindered by this mess that they're in. I'm sure she won't mind me saying that, Anastasia would sleep with a fire extinguisher next to her bed at night just in case, the waking watch didn't see the fire in time and wake them up. So so thank you so much, Anastasia. As with all of you, you're trapped. You're financially trapped in these buildings. You're physically trapped, and you're mentally trapped. You're having to live every day in buildings that you're being told are dangerous and facing bills of tens of thousands of pounds. I know it's a lot. You wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you think about, and a lot of you are involved in what we've called CLADMIN, which is just the general admin around around all of this scandal. So okay, I'm now going to hand over to Georgie. Georgie's a resident in one of our buildings, and she's also the co-founder of a campaign group called CLADDAG, which is for people living with disabilities in buildings with cladding and building safety issues. So I'm going to hand over to Georgie now.
Hi everyone. I'd firstly like to thank the organisers for inviting me, to all the speakers attending, and obviously all the Cladiators, allies, and anyone else who's turned up to this important event. Today's event is about putting people first and finding solutions to this mess. I want to start by emphasizing the importance of language in discussions around the scandal. Technical terms such as resident, tenant, leaseholder can be very dehumanizing. Whether it be past tragedies, the current situation, or what might happen in future, such language can hide the fact that this crisis is affecting real people and their homes. The same point applies to the obsession of focusing purely on building height. It takes away the fact that these buildings are our homes, whatever the height, and we and our homes are greatly at risk. We're all trapped in an immeasurable scandal, going back longer than we potentially realize. We, as people who didn't cause any of this, are never put first. I'm going to split the remainder of what I say into 3 parts. The first being an introduction about myself. Second, a brief explanation of my situation as an impacted Cladiator. And lastly, I will explain about CLADDAG and mention a couple of potential solutions. I'm Georgie Hulme and I live in the Life buildings. I inherited the flat from my late mother, who was a disabled pensioner. I miss her, but relieved she isn't having to go through this nightmare. I live in a multi-height building that only has one section over 18 meters and is the only part awarded a grant for cladding. There are no gaps in the building, but the rest has been deemed not eligible. How are people supposed to afford £50 a month under the government loan scheme on top of other costs, plus the costs of all the other necessary works? This isn't help. Now I will explain about CLADDAG, a leaseholder disability action group which recognizes that disabled people are a group of leaseholders who are systematically disadvantaged. We use the term disabled loosely, as many people with health problems or conditions don't identify as disabled. In fact, many of our members or people who contact us don't explicitly use the term for themselves, but we use it broadly to be inclusive. Speaking from my own experience, the impact of this crisis is massive. I imagine it is for all of us. I've been in torment for 2 years, the last being particularly awful. I've experienced a number of additional symptoms as a result of stress, including being hospitalized due to unresponsive episodes of up to 12 hours and panic attacks. I know I'm not alone, and most, if not all of us, have found that symptoms or conditions have worsened, or new ones started. It shouldn't be forgotten that today the heartbreaking story of Tom Mansell has featured in the media. Tom should not be forgotten. 3 issues CLADDAG are campaigning on are 1. Evacuation and associated costs, which are refused or pushed on to leaseholders. 2. Many of us on restricted incomes. Being reliant on disability benefits and or a state pension massively impacts our ability to fund remediation. 3. Some of our flats in a sense are also a care setting, as they've been adapted to meet our needs, so it's not easy to move elsewhere. In the case of anyone who needs help to evacuate, we advocate for a central fund to finance costs. This would improve access and reduce people being put in vulnerable situations, as people are panicked by rising service charges. As many of you are aware, we've recently undertaken a survey, which asks about the issues I've mentioned, and more. The findings are being analyzed, which we'll use in the aim of informing solutions. Please feel free to contact CLADDAG. Even when it feels difficult, try and remember that this fight is far from over. Thank you.